Police, joined by well-wishers, scour Aruba's beaches for signs of Natalee Holloway.
Our primary goal is to bring Natalee back home. We will do whatever it takes. As I've said from the beginning, I'm not leaving Aruba without her.
Series. One is, as you all know, these persons of interest might have done something wrong to Natalee.
That after 18 years, Natalee's case is solved. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. It's over.
Imagine you're 18 years old and you're graduating high school and you're just super excited. You're in Aruba on your graduation senior trip with a bunch of fellow classmates and friends. And you guys are all having the best and most wild time of your life. You're at the club one night and you meet a guy and you kind of like him. So eventually you end up leaving with him, going to the beach. You're at the beach, he then tries to force himself on you. And your first reaction is to knee him in the groin area for your own safety. And you've come to realize that became the biggest mistake of your life. This is the evil and vile murder of Natalee Holloway. Hey guys, welcome back to KW Lawholic. It's Kayla. I have a great case for you guys today. I'm super excited to get into it. It's super interesting and it's been around for quite a long time. If you're new, welcome. And if you're not, let's jump straight into it. So Natalee was born on October 21st, 1986. She was born to David and Elizabeth, also known as Beth Holloway. She was born in Memphis, Tennessee, but raised in Mississippi with her parents until her parents ended up divorcing and she went to live with her mom after her mom got remarried, and they then moved to Alabama. That is where she would attend the high school Mountain Brook. Everyone knows and said that Natalee was a super sweet girl. She was also super smart. She was on the National Honor Society in school. She was on the dance squad, and she did multiple other extracurriculars. She also received a full scholarship to attend the University of Alabama, and she was going to study pre-med.
So happy and energetic and outgoing.
They called her Hootie.
There's Hootie.
So Hootie Hoo Holloway.
Who's our special guest today?
It's Hootie.
Hootie Hoo Holloway.
Hi, friend.
Now, if we get into the day of her disappearance, let's start at the beginning of the trip. They arrived in Aruba on May 26, which was a Thursday of 2005. And this was for their graduation trip. It wasn't an official graduation trip they were given to from their school. They kind of all planned it together. And it was supposed to last 5 days. And they had 7 chaperones. Now, the chaperones were there. They checked in with all of the kids each day. But they didn't sit there and monitor the children. You know, they're older. They're 18. They're graduating. They didn't monitor them every day. They would just do daily check-ins. Natalee's classmates report last seeing her at around 1:30 a.m., leaving the Orchardin bar and the Carlos and Charlie's nightclub. They say that she left with 3 men. The first individual was a Dutch student named Joran Vandersloot and 2 of his friends who were brothers called the Kalpo brothers, Deepak and Saitish. Despite Joran being a Dutch student, he was living in Aruba at the time because he was attending their international Aruba high school. Vandersloot, he was 17 years old at the time, and Deepak was 21, and his younger brother was 18. The last time they reported seeing Natalee was 1:30 a.m. Now, the next day, Natalee had a flight scheduled to return home, and she didn't make her flight. And that's very unusual for Natalee. That happened, that's when a little bit of panic set in, but a little bit of just like, oh, she's a teenager, she probably overslept. They returned to the hotel, which was the Holiday Inn, and went to her room. And there they found her packed luggage and her passport. And that's when things started to pick up seriously. They initially started doing searches around the island that they were at and the surrounding waters just to figure out where she could possibly be, but they had no luck finding her. Now the investigation is starting. As soon as Natalee was reported to her parents that she didn't make her flight, her mom and stepfather immediately called a private flight, a private jet to Aruba so they could get there and locate where their daughter is at. When they landed, after only being there for 4 hours, they were able to provide the Arubian authorities with Joran Vandersloot's address and name. Her parents and family, along with the police, went to Joran's residence. All of the family, especially her mother, were demanding to know where she was at. And all Joran Vandersloot could say to Natalee's mother was, I don't know her name, and we dropped her back off to the hotel, and that was it. Her mom wouldn't take that for an answer, so she kept asking, and he finally said that Natalee wanted to see the sharks at the beach, which is pretty random at, 1 o'clock in the morning and it's dark to see sharks, which are dangerous. He said Natalee wanted to see the sharks, So they went to the beach that was near the hotels, the Arashi Beach. And after that, they took her back to the hotel, dropped her off around 2 a.m. And that was it. After that, that's when the first initial rescue and search missions really activated and started. They had the Aruban police and the United States pairing together to try to locate Natalee. The country let hundreds of volunteers and citizens and residents of Aruba get off of work that day just so they could volunteer to try to locate her. The Aruban police commissioner had no choice but to start interviewing students and figuring out how this trip was going, who she knew, who she interacted with. Everything they found out was pretty on brand for teenagers on a senior trip. The students engaged in a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, a lot of being in each other's rooms, switching rooms each night. That was it. When they did review the footage, the nighttime footage, they didn't see anything. Natalee did not appear on any footage that night entering back the hotel. 4 days later, on June 9th, Joran and the brothers were brought in, finally. While they were brought in, the Aruban police said they were actually the top suspects from the get-go. All three of them gave information that was pointing in multiple directions, and they had changed their stories 3 times about what happened that night. A Aruban police chief said, "This is an American girl from Birmingham, Alabama. She is not gonna stay in the car with 2 black men from a different country." And he didn't really lie. That's a perfect statement to make. And after he said that, the brothers were like, "Whoa, no, I was at home. I did not go back to the beach." The police eventually did have to release them. They released the brothers after a couple days, but they kept Vandersloot for 60 days till they were forced to release him under circumstantial evidence and not having anything concrete and solid. They brought out cadaver dogs, searches. They searched the entire landfill, and they did not find Natalee's body. They came to realize this is probably a dead end and that source of information isn't credible enough. At this time, Natalee's family were getting desperate. They started giving cash rewards. They offered $1 million if anyone could tell the location of her remains, $250,000 if they just had any info on her remains. If they just had anything that could help and be good help. And if they actually knew where her body was at, they were willing to pay $1 million to find their child, to find their baby, their daughter. So guys, we have a recap. Natalee went missing around 1:30 a.m. She left with 3 guys. She didn't show up for a flight. Family came there, police, they're interviewing the people she was with. They're saying so many different stories, nothing is making sense. And now her family is putting out rewards for money. They want to know what happened to their daughter. And the police know that these 3 guys know more than they're letting on, especially Joran Vandersloot. After countless and numerous arrests, rearrests, releases, the case of the disappearance of Natalee Holloway remained unsolved. The country of Aruba spent about $3 million on the investigation to try to locate her, find her, give her family some type of peace, some type of closure and comfort. Eventually, in 2007, the case was turned over to the Netherlands police and commissioner so that they could have a better chance of solving it. While all of that started in 2007, Vandersloot started gaining so much media attention. He was getting interviews, book deals, TV show interviews, everything, podcasts, anything that could get his version and his side of the story out there, he was doing. And from that, he started making a lot of money off of it. He was making money off of a young girl disappearing and possibly being hurt, murdered, just anywhere. Because so much time had passed and the fact that they didn't have any real evidence to tie them to it, they legally weren't suspects anymore. That means they really couldn't be charged for her disappearance. Vandersloot's dad was a magistrate judge. There's so many platforms and articles and news outlets that his dad were pulling the strings behind the scene to make sure that they wouldn't get charged with anything, will always have to get released. Went on to say in another interview that he had sold Natalee into sexual slavery in Venezuela. And once he said that, it's like, oh my goodness. But he messed up because he said his dad knew about it, and his dad is the one that helped him cover it up and hide it, and that he did get paid for it. I got paid for it and my dad helped. Once he said that, I guess all bets were off the table, because his dad was like, I don't have nothing to do with any of this. I didn't know anything about a girl being sold as a sex slave. And once again, arrests, releases, it didn't stick. 2 years had then passed in 2010. Now during this time, I don't know if Vandersloot was desperate, but he started to extort Natalee's family for money. He told them that he would reveal the location of her body and the way she died and how the night went if they paid him $250,000. Once he did that, the mom and family were like, yeah, we're gonna take this. We're gonna take advantage of this. They contacted the police and the FBI, and they were able to set up wire transfers. And once he participated in that and did it, it finally became extortion and wire fraud. So now he had charges in the US. He's not in the US right now. He's in a whole bunch of different countries, any extradition to get him back to the United States. This is where it gets sad once again. On May 30th, 2010, the same day on her disappearance, Vandersloot killed 21-year-old Stephanie Ramirez in a hotel room in Peru. Hotel manager and housekeepers found her body, and they realized, like, oh my God, this is a dead girl. And they checked who the room was registered to. It's under his name. So they found him, and he admitted to it. He said that he lost his temper after he found Stephanie going through his laptop. And what she found on his laptop was information that connected him to Natalee and Natalee's murder. He killed her on the same day that Natalee went missing. That is just so sick and just scary. Vandersloot was then sentenced with first-degree murder and sentenced with 28 years in prison. They end up sentencing him around the time of 2012 to 2013, and that's when it started in Peru. He did his time in Peru. He still was there until they were able to finally get approved with extraditing him to the United States to do the rest of his prison sentence. And it came out on October 18th, 2023, just a couple days before Natalee's birthday. 13 years later, finally admitted that he killed her in a pro-offer letter. Pro-offer letter is a letter inmates and criminals will write to try to help lessen their sentence to some extent. In his letter, he admitted that after he was at the beach, he did try to initiate sex with Natalee, and she refused him.
Actually, with Natalee walking along the beach, I find a space before we get to the Marriott Hotel, where I lay her down. We lay down together in the sand, and we start kissing each other. I get her to kiss me again. We start kissing each other, and I start feeling her up again, and she tells me no. She tells me she doesn't want me to feel her up. I insist. I keep feeling her up either way, and she knees me. She ends up kneeing me in the crotch. When she knees me in the crotch, I get up on the beach and I kick her extremely hard in the face. Yeah, she's laying down unconscious, possibly even dead, but definitely unconscious. And I see right next to her there's a huge cinder block laying on the beach.
When you say cinder block, looking at the walls of this place, is it like those?
The exact same cinder blocks. I see a huge cinder block laying on the beach. I take this and I smash her head in with it completely.
After that, he said he kicked and rolled her body into the ocean like a piece of garbage. He tossed her body in the water. Finally, after all of these years, 13 years, her mother was finally able to get closure. And even though he didn't get sentenced for Natalee's murder, he did get sentenced for Stephanie's, and in a way that does kind of provide some type of closure and justice to his crime. I would now like to give my condolences to the Holloway family. Despite it taking so long, being an 18-year period, I am happy that Natalee's family was able to finally just find out the truth, get closure. Her mom stated that yes, while it was hard to hear and know that her daughter was killed in this vicious manner, it was worse not knowing what happened to her. So I'm just sending out peace and love and comfort for the Holloway family. Can't even imagine what they're going through, but I'm glad they were able to get the justice that they deserve. I'm glad Natalee was able to get her killer behind bars in some extent. Thank you guys for listening. This is my captured case, Natalee Holloway. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any cases, please don't feel afraid to comment down below, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thank you guys. See you next time on KW Lawholic.